This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM, and we have with us at WZRD via Zoom, Alece McFadden, who is the Executive Director of Bridging the Gap Collective. Welcome, Alece. How are you?
Oh my gosh, it's so nice to be here right now. I have so much gratitude to the universe of having this conversation with you today, Trudy. Such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Alece. One thing though, our if possible, try not to mention my name on the air because on the air, our wizards or DJs try to remain anonymous. But we are so glad to have you here, Alece McFadden. First of all, Alece, tell us a little bit about how um, Bridging the Gap Collective started.
Wow. So Bridging the Gap Collective was a vision based off of just life experiences. And through, my life experiences, I was entrusted in starting this nonprofit. So throughout my life experiences, I got to work with various nonprofits. And through that, I've gotten to see disparities in nonprofits. And I got to see disparities in various neighborhoods and communities with people who really needed help. And being a clinician, I got to see how important it is that everybody deserves the right to be okay and to have services if needed. So, even working in nonprofits, I saw how long the waiting lines were for people to be able to see a therapist. And also being a student, as well as an intern, I got to see what it's like being an intern on the other side of learning, and the importance it is to have a nurturing environment for the clinician, as well as a nurturing environment for the people that we serve. So I'm just so grateful to be able to be the visionary of this, but at the same time, having such an amazing team that believes in the vision and the mission, and, keeping it and getting it together and allowing it to manifest has been so remarkable.
When you mentioned that people are waiting when they need mental health care, how widespread is that? Is that almost like universally? Is there always waiting? Is so that need is very, very great?
Yeah, so a lot of nonprofits pretty much do have a waiting list. So when it comes to people really not having insurance or being able to afford therapy, the wait times can be pretty long. And that is really tough when, we can be in a very vulnerable position and wanting the help for therapy. So it's very important to have something where we're creating a framework to have for-profit industries having a nonprofit arm where they can take in these clinicians, these student clinicians, and truly train them in a proper way to be able to go out in these underserved communities and network with these other nonprofits in collaborations of being able to provide free therapy services. So that way, maybe we're not fixing the issue, but we're definitely assisting the issue by creating a framework for this.
Mhm. So what you're saying is that you're collaborating with nonprofits who uh, that provide mental health services but do not have enough clinicians. So what Bridging the Gap does is that they bring in the intern clinicians to help meet that gap. And then while they're interning, they also have is it a clinician that is mentoring them?
Yes. So what it's about is it's about not only supervising the intern, because that can be a very overwhelming experience. I've had interns in the past where, just supervising them, like, we're very we can get anxious with a lot of things on the outside kind of imposing, and then we're trying to learn, and then learning is difficult. So to have another clinician, not only as your supervisor, but having another clinician that is your mentor, to be able to meet the intern where the intern is so important, because it's all about humankind and building upon the personality that the clinician already has. So if we get to build the personality, or not build the personality per se, but build upon the personality and help people feel secure, for what they're doing and what they're learning in this environment, then, it makes a more secure therapist per when they go out into the field and do the things that they need to do with, clients who are super vulnerable. So now we don't have two vulnerable people in the same space.
Mhm. So what the interns are doing is that they're following their mentor into the field, and that the intern is assisting and then observing. They're already trained. They have their schooling, right? But they need the field work. Is that correct?
Yes. So this internship, is for interns that really want a second layer of understanding and learning. So, and then as well as support, like as humans or humankind, we love the notion of unity and connecting with each other. We love the notion of being validated and feeling supported while we're learning. That's what helps us evolve and grow, in any sector of life, that's positive. And so it's important to have a space that is very positive and warm, but yet it's important to put them in these areas that really need the help. So by working in these underserved communities, or these communities that, have a lot of people that necessarily can't afford therapy, or therapy is stigmatized, it's super important for, these clinicians to overcome their own fears, have the confidence, and then gain cultural competency at the same time to be in these areas and assisting the people that truly need, the additional assistance that are not receiving it.
So the interns have not received their license to practice yet, but they're getting the extra layer of training while being an intern.
That's correct. Yep.
And then when they do get their license, are they able to get their license after the training, or is there still more schooling involved for them?
So, what we'll be doing is we'll be accepting undergrad interns who will be doing more case management work. So, people in the community need help with signing up for Medicaid or supplemental insurance, or, getting a link card, or, being able to understand the basics of case management. And then, we'll have grad interns that are in their levels of grad school that are learning as they're in school, they're learning the steps of what is it like being a clinician. So it's giving them a real world experience of being a clinician. So they're learning these things as well, like in the real world field. So once they graduate, with their master's, then they can, go off and get, whatever certification it is, per which their field of study.
Mhm. And you hope that they will return to Bridging the Gap Collective to be on the team, or they might not actually do that. They might go somewhere else.
Well, the beauties of life is we all have our free will.
Yes.
So if, they would love to come back and mentor, to, be able to say, hey, this is what I learned when I was in this nonprofit, is absolutely, amazing. Yeah.
Um, when you mentioned the undergrad, and then they're helping the patients get these resources, like applying for a link card and Medicare and insurance, that sounds a little bit like the work of a social worker. So in other words, being a mental health therapist, you also need to have that background of social work, at least the basics of social work in order to be a good functioning mental therapist, right?
Well, it depends on the steps in which someone went to school, their avenue. So it depends on like their entrance into school. So
Mm.
I myself, I went to Northeastern and I got my social work degree. So
Mhm.
even within undergrad, I did case management and I worked at a beautiful nonprofit where people came in, they were getting their food, their supplies, they sat with me, and they needed resources. So I would go out in the community, figure out these resources, and be able to extend these resources to them in the hopes that it would enlighten their life in giving them, you know, um, just a pathway for whatever that they need. So, I mean, the basics are essential for anyone. So, yeah, social work is a beautiful thing because we all need a sense of, someone to help us navigate because there's a lot of things that are out there, like service wise, and it can be very overwhelming for a person to be able to figure these things out. So to have someone who is aware or can find these resources and then pass these resources on, or maybe make the calls or do these things are very important. I genuinely love our social workers that are out there working so hard, making home visits, doing all these check-ins, because social workers are just so, I would say, very powerful because they know so much and they have so many avenues for which they can like maneuver, and they help society in so many different ways.
Mhm. We spoke with a partner in helping marginalized members of the community find jobs, and oftentimes he mentioned that even when he found a resource for them, maybe found a job that met their goals, they still needed nudge after nudge to actually take advantage of that job to actually get employed in that job and do the interview, do the application. What about the resources? Does that happen too when you bring the resource to a person and then they do need it, but they're just not used to taking the initiative to actually use that resource, get that resource. Does that happen?
Oh, yes. I mean, think about it this way. I mean, we deal with so much fear of, when I say outside world, I mean outside of ourselves. So when we deal with so much fear of the outside world that is superimposing onto us, that we can, have these protective factors. And so through that, it can be like our brain is like reminding us of like, oh my gosh, you remember that time? You remember that time? And it can make a person fearful because fear is the unknown. So it can make someone fearful of the unknown to push forward. So having a social worker who's brave that can push forward for you as a guide, and then at the same time motivate you and being more learning more advocacy for yourself is highly important because as humans, people, we're people. Like we are afraid, we can be fearful of things, and it takes willpower to overcome these things. It takes strength, it takes resilience to overcome these things because we have this brain that tells us of all of the times that things did not work out for us, and then through that we have to overcome these things to be able to get to these resources. So sometimes when we're at our lowest point and we're at points that are just super uncomfortable, it's not a comfortable thing to ask for help. Like that means that's giving up a sense of control in a way to say, hey, I am struggling and I need some help. And I have no idea where to go. And I have some pride in that too. So please help me. So having a social worker being able to hold your hand and walk you through those things is super beneficial.
Mhm.
And that's, Bridging the Gap Collective is really based off of just, the original idea is super based off of just my own life experiences, throughout my own past, of, the things that I was able to observe and going through my own mental bank of knowledge. And through that, like, I've seen how things can be difficult and things can be very intimidating and imposing and very hard. And it can make us feel a sense of like, I'm afraid to ask for help. And having something like this is so profound and so amazing because it just helps us understand the notion of we're humans. We all are humans. Some of us know a little bit more, some of us don't. But if we're able to help each other and have a sense of unity and a united front, then through that we can all move forward together. It's all about togetherness.
Mhm. But it's sometimes it's kind of hard to impart that unity. And how do you help overcome that? For instance, for your interns, there might be some interns that are very easily can easily self-start and then do the different steps that help them learn. But there are some that you have to take them by the hand and have to be constantly helping. So how do you find a good intern? And even do you want to find a good intern, or do you find one that you do need to help, and then find satisfaction in helping that intern that has trouble learning?
Yeah, I don't think there's really a such thing as a good intern for real.
Mm,
I just feel like if you if you went to school, you did the work and like learning all these things and writing all these papers and doing all this research and turning it in, then that's willpower within itself. So a lot of it, like, so the main thing about being an actual clinician or a social worker or whatever is meeting the client where they are. So if we could take the word client out and say person, meeting the person where they are is important. So that means that there's various skills and avenues for which anybody is coming in. So no one is better than the other one. Maybe one person might need these types of assistance and the other one doesn't, or this other person needs this assistance, and that's fine. So it's about having an open heart and a I don't know mindset or open mind, to be able to genuinely understand the intern and understand where they are. So that way it's like, okay, I'm going to help assist you in this way. But at the same time, it's important that you truly get to understand these are the communities that you will be serving. This is what the people are experiencing in these communities. And and it's a beautiful learning experience. So now it's truly ingrained in their brains, in their minds, in their career minds, so that they can really take this with them. And this is a book that they're uploading to have throughout their careers. This is important.
mhm. And you mentioned cultural training for the interns. What could you elaborate on that?
Wow. Okay. So when we're saying cultural training, it's really important for the interns to step into the communities that they'll be serving. And that is the reason that Bridging the Gap Collective have come into fruition. So we all have various backgrounds per our experiences of working with various people or being around various people. And sometimes we don't know what it's truly like for a person. And that's okay. But the beautiful thing about that is just because we don't know doesn't mean we have to already have this preconceived notion. It's important to just be open to know. So through that, cultural competency is so important to step into the mindset of genuinely like what other people are experiencing.
Mhm.
So being able to see the neighborhoods that these people are coming from, being able to, tap into the lifestyle, understand maybe the music that they listen to, understand, what the history is. You know, it's a like as people, we have this sense of like a beautiful shared consciousness, or it's important to have a shared consciousness rather. And so through that, we're always students, we're always learning. So it's a beautiful learning. It's important to learn. So that's what this internship is really about, is to truly understand, um, learning about people. Like, I genuinely don't know you. Please teach me so that I have a awareness and an understanding, and I have a understanding of what the cultural competency truly looks like, so that I'm very mindful when I'm able to step into a therapy room and assist, because I'm a student. I don't know really anything about a person until I have an open mind and an open heart and can listen.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And these sessions always occur in the therapy room, right? There's no neighborhood immersion or any field trips outside the neighborhood.
So, as our internships are beginning to gear up, we will be having some neighborhood events. We'll be able to bring the interns into the neighborhoods that we will be serving. We'll be able to, you know, have conversations with community members so that we're having a real life experience of what it's like. So, it's not just necessarily reading from a book, which are fine, but it's about being able to have a real conversation and then meditating on it, and then putting one's own kind of perspective in it, like having a super perspective in a way of understanding, man, wow, this person really went through a lot, like having the true empathy to truly understand like where everyone is coming from, because that is what's most important. When I can learn, then I can utilize the tools that I've learned in school in assisting with helping a client get through whatever hardships that they're experiencing.
Are there many other internships for mental health therapist students, or are you pretty unique?
Um, I'm not sure. Well, okay. So I do know that there are so many internships that are out there for interns, but at the same time, this internship is unique because it's about nurturing the intern. And the reason that we feel so highly about nurturing the intern is because it's about their development. Because once they have the proper development, then they will feel more confident to be in these areas, in assisting the people who really need the help. So instead of giving them anxiety and worry and discomfort, which does not belong to them, we want to give them genuine love and genuine understanding, because that is what they'll pass on like wildfire.
Mhm. And what you're providing to the interns in the internship, you find that that is different from the other internships that maybe even you have had before, right?
Yes.
In what ways, if you can?
Oh, I'm so loving the question. I've had an internship where, I've had a supervisor that was probably not as nice in meeting me where I was at. And it gave me a sense of feeling not capable in a way, even though my heart told me I was, but my mind was starting to give me the notion that maybe I wasn't that capable. And as people, we are projectors and we can project. But at the end of the day, it's really about having an internship where it's just not just a supervisor, but it's a mentor.
Mhm.
So the Juniper Center is an amazing company because it has like over 70 or 80 clinicians that have been working in the field for so many years. And they have so many books of knowledge in their brains that they're just so willing to pass on to the younger clinicians that are coming into the field. And so it's really about connecting and having a sense of shared consciousness in this. So that way, we're able to, pass it forward, pass it down. And at the same time, we're just uniting people. That's what it's about. It's about unity.
Mhm. Well, Alece McFadden, thank you so much for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM and sharing with us what you are doing at the Bridging the Gap Collective.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. I appreciate all of it.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.